Welcome to Southern Sense Talk on Rumble. You are going to love Annie the Radio Chickadee Ubelis and her co-host, C.S. Bennett. You'll find them live here on Fridays from 2:30 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Date Time. Check out their website at Southern Sense, as in commonsense.net. It's that easy, southernsense.net. So sit back and relax. They're informative, fun, irreverent, and politically incorrect. You never know where they'll go, but you'll love the journey.
And welcome back to another journey here on Southern Sense. I'm your hostess with the least mostess, Annie, along with my co-host, Curtis C.S. Bennett. Curtis, we got ourselves one heck of a ride here today. Those that were listening last week, I said that we're going to have Bill Walton and Dr. Malone, Robert Malone on, but both had to back out last minute. So we scrambled, and instead today, we're going to have Donald Wilkie. He is the author of a book titled Freedom Revealed, A Simple, Elegant System. He's a seasoned entrepreneur and an expert in the relationship between government, autonomy, and freedom. And then also going to have my friend from the CO2 Coalition, Gregory Wrightstone. So we do got a good show lined up for us and a lot to talk about today. And Curtis, just before we went on air, we were talking about what we both saw on TV. This heated exchange between President Trump, J.D. Vance, and the president of Ukraine, Zelensky. Ooh, boy. But did they take him to school?
Yeah, like I said, it was like having an insight to how a mob meeting goes, when the mob boss say, this is how it's going to be, we doing you a favor.
Well, actually, it is true. I mean, there are billions of dollars that went into Ukraine that are unaccounted for, that no one knows what has happened to them. We had President, Obama sent them sheets instead of armaments. Biden was just handing money out left and right, just for free, instead of asking for anything in return. I mean, when we lent all that money to Europe to rebuild after World War II, it was on the expectation it would be repaid, which it was. So, we're not, a piggy bank that you can tap anytime you want. You just can't break the little pig and take all your money and not expect to replace it. So basically that's what they're doing. They're trying to break the bank and get away with it for free, but no. And Trump is correct in demanding that we get some sort of repayment. And the least expensive for Ukraine would be to give us the mineral rights to the rare earth minerals.
I heard they didn't sign it today, so stay tuned for part 2.
Yeah, it's going to be part 2 of whatever is going on. And I mean, Trump and Vance were correct to school him. You don't do that in front of the reporters. And Zelensky was trying to school them. And in turn, he got schooled.
Well, I was ready for Trump to say, look, I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse. And that's it. We're out.
Oh, I think basically that's what he was telling him. You're going to have to take this offer, whether you like it or not. And Trump is saying, you need to do a ceasefire. And he's going, no, we need them to withdraw completely. You start with the ceasefire, then take the time to sit down and work out an agreement to end the hostilities. But you got to stop the fighting first. You got to stop the death. And he's correct in doing that. And J.D. Vance, God bless this man. I swear, if he runs for president, I'm voting for him. He was correct. He goes, you got all this aid and money from us. You got armaments, you got cash. Did you once say thank you to the American public for their tax dollars?
Mm-mm. And I don't think he said it then, I think he's just been used to dealing with Biden and his administration. And I think this is a reality check for him today that Biden is no longer in the picture. You're dealing with a real dealer.
Which Trump pointed out quite honestly. He said, Zelensky was trying to school him and say, well, it started under Biden. It went through with you under Trump, as Trump, then to, Obama, then Trump, then Biden, and then Trump back. But the thing is that nothing escalated under Trump. It seemed like everything started to calm down when Trump came into office. It escalated when Biden came into office. Yes, Russia took Crimea. They had a ceasefire. There was an agreement that Russia keeps Crimea. But what Zelensky was trying to infer is that the entire thing was still Trump's responsibility. No, Obama let it happen. Trump calmed things down for a little while. Biden comes in, Ukraine gets invaded again under Biden, not Trump.
I think Trump was trying to say, look, that's then in the past. Where do we go, moving forward? That's what we're here to deal with, the here and now.
Exactly. Yeah.
And this guy was still
that's what he was saying. Yeah. And he was thinking he was going to get whatever he wanted with no consequence. No, there's a way in which these things work.
You could tell he was frustrated, Trump.
Oh, yeah, very much frustrated. And if we walk away from the deal, then Zelensky, that's on your shoulders. And then you had that one reporter going, well, you seem to be allies with Putin. And Trump's going, I represent the American people. I want world peace.
Yeah, he said I'm on the side of the world.
So if I have to sit down with both of them, I'm going to turn around and listen to both sides and be allies to both sides. But I'm going to be the one that brings them to the middle, which is what we want. We want the two sides to sit down and cease these hostilities. We don't want World War III. But Zelensky was like a spoiled child. And boy, I love Vance. Just schooling him. Which is great.
I believe Macron, in France and some of the other European nations are going to have a good talk with this guy, while he's at the Blair House, and get him back to negotiating with Trump. In other words, they're going to, chastise him for, his poor performance today and say, hey, you want our continued support. You get back in the White House and you deal with Trump, or else we're just going to let Russia, just run you over.
Yeah. All right. Well, if people are watching and wondering why I keep turning my head, I'm trying to see that if my show is now up on Substack. It should be live up there today. I'm looking to see if I can find it. Activity. Let's see what we got here. Well, no, that's not it. Where the heck would I find it? Dashboard? Okay. Hopefully it's up there. And my screen is taking its time to load up.
Well, what is showing? What do we have showing?
Well, right now we're up on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, which is Twitter, Getter, Rumble, my homepage, southernsense.net, and we should be up on, and I don't see it on my Substack. I don't see it up on Substack. I don't know why. But anyway, we'll try to figure out what went wrong with that. But yeah, we're up everywhere else. So if people that you always spread the word that we're out on multiple forums, and Blog Talk Radio is out the window. They're no longer doing live broadcasts anymore. Instead, we went to Buzzsprout, which puts us out on iHeartRadio, Spotify, and half a dozen other places that you can find us for the audio only. With that said, let me look at the clock. We're running out of time here. For those that listen to the show, know that we start each and every show with a dedication to a fallen hero. And today's dedication is going to go out to Police Officer Cooper Dawson. Police officer Cooper Dawson succumbed to gunshot wounds he received while pursuing a subject who fled a traffic stop. He stopped a driver who had multiple felony warrants. The driver then fled the car on foot, and Dawson pursued. As Dawson ran behind, he was ambushed by the subject, who struck him multiple times in the leg and chest. He returned fire, wounding the subject. Dawson was transported to a local hospital, then airlifted to Medical City, Plano, where he passed away the following morning. Officer Dawson was a United States Army National Guard veteran and served with the Greenville Police Department in Texas for over a year. He had previously served with the Garland Police Department for 7 years. He is survived by his wife and 3 children. And this is the dedication.
The Greenville Police Department in Hunt County is grieving the loss of a fellow officer. Cooper Dawson was killed in the line of duty this morning. Police say he was ambushed by a suspect. Fox 4's Peyton May joins us from Greenville and has more, as we're expected to get more information throughout the day.
Officers have parked a car here in front of the department, starting the memorial for Officer Cooper Dawson. Greenville Police Chief says they're asking for thoughts and prayers for the family during this difficult time. Police say at around 7:40 last night, Officer Dawson initiated a traffic stop in Greenville. That led to a foot chase where police say Dawson was ambushed and shot multiple times by the suspect. He was injured but shot back. Now, both Officer Dawson and the suspect were taken to the hospital. Police say Dawson had gunshot wounds in his side and leg and died from his injuries. Officers from many different departments gathered around Medical City, Plano, as Dawson's body was moved in a procession from the hospital to the medical examiner's office. The Greenville Police Chief says, quote, "We are heartbroken over the loss of Officer Cooper Dawson, who selflessly put his life on the line to serve and protect our community. This is the first officer killed in the line of duty here at Greenville Police Department in over 100 years. Reporting in Greenville, Peyton May, Fox 4 News.
Well, Greenville Police will have a news conference at 4:30 with an update on the investigation. There are several ways you can watch that conference. You can watch it right here on Fox 4, also streaming on fox4news.com and on our Fox local app.
Murdered Greenville police officer Cooper Dawson was honored today during an emotional tribute to his life and his service. Good evening, I'm Steve Eager.
I'm Heather Hayes. Officer Dawson was killed in the line of duty last week trying to get a suspect into custody. Today, he was remembered for his bravery. Fox 4's Alex Boyer joins us now. Alex.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. And I can tell you that it indeed was a very touching tribute. Officer Dawson's wife shared that she had dinner with Officer Dawson along with the 3 kids just 13 minutes before he answered that fateful call. She added that before leaving, he gave them all a hug and said, "I love you." Inside Lake Point Church in Rockwall.
We honor him today for being a servant and a protector of our communities.
Family, friends, and colleagues paid tribute to fallen Greenville police officer Cooper Dawson.
And I can't help but know that Cooper's with us, watching.
Officer Dawson was shot on November 25th by a suspect he was chasing on foot through a Greenville neighborhood. Chief Chris Smith said Dawson showed great strength during that painful time, assisting officers who began tending to his wounds.
Cooper never lost focus. Calm down. We're all right. Put your tourniquet next to mine. This is what you got to do. I was walking people through how to treat him. I don't know that I will ever see that courage again.
The 27-year-old husband and father of 3 died at the hospital the next day. His wife grateful to his medical team who worked for hours trying to save his life.
To the hospital staff and the EMTs, thank you for working so hard on my husband, for never leaving his side, praying over him and making sure it was peaceful when it was his time at 3:53 a.m.
Aubrey Dawson shared that the two met on a dating app. She said she recognized the police uniform because her father worked for the same police department, Garland PD. Dawson went on to work for the Greenville Police Department.
There's always been a joke in my family that my dad wears the cape for being super dad. Cooper was always competing for that cape. But Coop, you earned that cape on Monday night. You died a hero.
Aubrey said she and the kids had finished dinner with Dawson just 13 minutes before he answered that fateful call.
The kids and I will hold on to the memories you gave us, and we will ensure your legacy lives on in the lives of others.
After the service, Officer Dawson's body was escorted by fellow officers to the Rest Haven Funeral Home, where the family held a private burial service.
Rest easy, Coop. We got this.
To my love. Thank you for everything, Coop. You gave everything, and I will carry that love in my heart always.
And we found out today from Chief Smith that Officer Dawson's gravesite is located right next to two of the young girls who were killed in the Allen Massacre mall shooting. Smith said that they'll have a protector lying next to them for eternity.
Let it be said, when we finish this race, we kept them free, we led with grace. Let it be seen, from sea to shining sea, beautiful America, living our legacy. Oh, Father, Mother, sister, brother, oh, we gotta learn to love each other. Oh, for the soul of the nation, for the next generation. Let us be known as people of honor, humble and bold, faithful through fire. Let us hold firm to our convictions with wide open hearts, eager to listen. Oh, Father, Mother, sister, brother, oh, we gotta learn to love each other. Oh, for the soul of the nation, for the next generation. Let us make room. Let us reimagine, welcoming voices with true compassion. Let's craft a world with hopes and dreams, the challenges known, those still unseen. Oh, Father, Mother, sister, brother, oh, we gotta learn to love each other. Oh, for the soul of the nation, for the next generation. Let us be sure, when our time has come, we gave them song. Let it be said, when we finish this race, we kept them free, yeah, we led with grace. Oh, father, mother, sister, brother, oh, we gotta learn to love each other. Oh, for the soul of the nation, for all the next generation. Let it be said. Oh, father, mother, sister, brother, oh, we gotta learn to love each other. Oh, for the soul of the nation, for all the next generation.
All right, and we are back. I'm your hostess with the least mostest, Annie, the chickadee, along with my co-host Curtis C.S. Bennett, who has himself muted. So, Curtis, unmute yourself, please. I don't know how that happened.
Okay.
There we go.
All right.
And I did, while we were on the dedication, I went and double checked. We are up on Substack streaming live. So if you do subscribe to Substack or you don't, just go to @SouthernSense, all as one word, @SouthernSense, lowercase and all. So it's SOUTHERNSENSE, Southern Sense on Substack. So yes, we are there. So glad to have them join the crowd. This is something new. We're in the beta version of it. So not everyone can do this. So I was invited onto the beta version. So this is all brand new. That's why I wasn't sure how it went.
Oh, okay. Hey, let me ask you something. Last week when we had all this bad weather across the country, did you guys get any snow or ice?
Oh, that was a week ago. It was more than a week ago, right? Yeah.
I thought it was like,
Yeah.
okay. Did you get anything?
Yeah. Yeah, we did. We did. And of course, down south, no one knows how to drive in it. So everything's went to standstill.
I know I heard about a polyp somewhere. I just didn't know what state it was.
Oh, yeah, I did. It was a really huge one. Now I forget where that was. I thought that was out towards the Midwest. I forget too. I think it was something, the 90 some odd cars were in it. Now that was huge, huge. I mean, the worst I ever had to handle, we had an 11 car pile up on the Brooklyn Queens Expressway. And that was on Thanksgiving Day. What a day.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any fatalities?
No. Just a lot of bruised eagles. A lot of bruised eagles. I was just having to do every single car gets an accident report.
Man. So what
So
do you
there's a
think
lot
of
of handwriting.
what do you think of the increases in the tolls there in New York? I mean,
Oh, that got pulled.
I
That
know
got pulled.
Trump pulled it, right? But I thought they was trying to get it back through the courts.
No, I don't know. I try to not think about
Crazy.
too much about New York State, unless I
Oh,
have
man.
to. Shh! Don't tell people listening from New York.
That's just so
Sorry,
nice.
guys. I'm New York born and bred, as you can tell from my dialect. But yeah, it's gotten a little crazy up there. And as I know, the congestion tax was pulled. And matter of fact, Elise Stefanik's seat, they were trying to prevent the special election from occurring, and they wanted the governor to appoint the person to her seat. But the Republicans upstate New York, God bless them, standing strong, and the special election is going forward for Lisa Stefanik's seat, which, God willing, goes to a conservative Republican. Well, but there's a lot to talk about. We're waiting for our new guest to call, and should be calling in a few minutes. But this is something that I came across that Chelsea Gabbard, cleaning up her department, the National Security Agency, turns out that under the DEI program, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, they started a chat room. Now, you're working for the National Security Agency, right? Everything is supposed to be hush, hush, secret, right? Well, this was not a hidden communication just among employees, but it was considered to be part of the vital diversity, equity, and inclusion work of that agency. And part of the internal government chat system, Interlink, was being used by employees who identified in the LGBTQ community, etc., to discuss, and this is what really gets me. You're there to do the work of securing our nation. But what they were discussing in this chat, kinkish fetishes, sex change surgeries, and more in-depth things, such as engaging in sexual intercourse and urination with remade genitals, cross-sex hormones, laser hair removal, surgically enhanced breasts were also among the discussed topics. Others discussed desire to have intersex baby and raise that child non-binary. Sexual and relationships were also discussed, such as the advantages of ethical non-monogamy or polygamy. I mean, this is a government chat. This is not like over on TikTok or Instagram or whatever, or Discord, whatever. It's on a government agency chat where they should be discussing the business of the nation, not your sexual relationships and perversions or diversions or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I worked in naval intelligence, and I'm telling you, we couldn't get away with something like that. But from what I hear, she's pulled their clearances, and most of them going to be fired.
And rightly so. You're doing this on the taxpayer's dime. What you do personally with your sexual being, whatever you do, I mean, I don't want it on a government chat when you should be doing the work of the people. That's your personal business. You don't need it out there on the street. You don't need it on my tax dollar. What you do as an adult, that is your business, but do not bring it to work. And if that work is within a government agency, especially a security agency, it shouldn't be there, period.
Well, it did give you insight to their own perversions.
No, this is the problem.
The gentleman that we're supposed to,
the gentleman that should be calling in as our next guest, Donald Wilkie, he deals with intergovernment relationship and business. And one of the things he discusses that government produces waste, where the private sector really doesn't. Because waste costs us, and we don't want to lower our profit margin. But government produces waste. So you got people that don't even. I think the NSA agency said something like 8.9% actually showed up in the building to work. 9.9. That's over 91% were working remotely. And
of
there's
course,
no supervision.
Of course, they're going to try to slow Trump down with all these, these courts, going to the courts to try to prevent him from moving forward. But it's not going to work. It's just going to slow things down. But in the end, I believe he's going to prevail.
I truly hope so, because right now, what was the amount? Is it something like 55 billion they have identified and cut waste?
In the first 6 weeks.
something like 55 billion. I had some here in one of my notes that they've actually identified, and that's in the first 36 days. Now, the greatest thing about this DOGE department under Elon Musk, it has a sunset date. July 4th next year, on our 250th anniversary, DOGE will be shut down. That doesn't mean that the Trump administration is going to stop looking for ways in which to save the taxpayer dollar. And that does not mean he will not pursue these lawsuits diligently. And, you know, if Vance comes in and it succeeds Trump in the presidency, hey, guys, we've got 8 years of our government being pared down. Government constitutionally should be limited, but instead, government went from 16% of our economy to 60%. And that's unacceptable. That's unacceptable. I mean, would you run your household like that? No.
Well, another thing I believe this process has exposed was that there truly is a deep state, a resistance, because there were some people who just didn't believe it. You know, they thought it was just something some on the right, conspiracy types were just drumming up for publicity purposes. But the deep state is real. The resistance is real. I just got a notification the other day. I guess whoever sent it to me thought I was a Democrat, but it's a list of actions they're going to take to try to block Trump's DEI efforts and other efforts he's undertaking and that he campaigned on. So, you know, they are trying to marshal up their troops, what's left of them, and die on this hill. You know, I mean, it's almost like the Alamo, I guess. But so be it. You know, if that's what they want to do.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna wait and see. I'm trying to send over to Donald's representative.
The contact info.
Yeah.
And it depends if he's in a different time zone too. I don't know. They sometimes gets, a little taken off by the different time zones.
Right. I just sent the message over, so hopefully he should be signing in pretty soon. But yeah, I mean, this is.
But I think Trump is right to go and gut the bureaucracy. I mean, if you don't, it's just going to be there for the next presidency.
And it'll expand. Because if you give them an inch, they will take a mile. That's the whole thing. And they will find a way in which to take regulations or laws and to twist them to their purpose. And which is why we have to be super careful when bills are passed on how it is worded. The Inflation Reduction Act had nothing to do with reducing inflation. It had everything to do about climate change, the greenies. It did nothing to reduce the inflation. All it did was push the green agenda forward. Again, we have to be careful in how they word these things.
And not only that, any executive order that really we need to be lasting and not changed by the next presidency, the Congress we have now should make it law to make it more difficult for the next president just to come in and wipe it clean.
Well, what should happen is if the Congress agrees with the executive order, they should make that executive order a law.
Right.
And that way it cannot be done. So it's up to the executive branch to present it to Congress, requesting them to make it a law enforceable, that only an act of Congress can repeal it. And if we can get the two, but then again, what happens when you have a Democratic president and a Republican Congress, like you just saw?
But the way I'm looking at it, we own both houses, the White House too, and we have a mandate. and we should get as much done as we can in 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
because they're not going to have any mercy on us if they get back in power.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
They
You
don't
know,
have a
what,
leader now, but they're searching for one. I don't know who that may be, but we'll find out before the midterms.
mm, so,
Cuomo, maybe.
all right. It looks like they're trying to get a hold of him and telling him to sign in. So, okay. But folks, I mean, I know that last week we said we were going to have Bill Walton on, but he ended up getting really sick yesterday, and they kind of like notified me late in the day. So they scrambled for a replacement for him, and Dr. Robert Malone was all set to come on and looking forward to it, but he had to fly down to D.C. today, so we lost him also. So we have Gregory Wrightstone coming on the second half, and we're waiting for Donald Wilkie to sign in and join us. So that's why we're here, just ambling along. But you know, there's so much going on right now. It's we were talking earlier about Ukraine, and Zelensky. This is some of the things that our money, our tax dollars went to, and why there should be an accounting. Some of the funding went allegedly to alleviate the economic distress, and it did exactly the opposite. It went to sending Ukrainian models and designers on junkets to New York City, to London Fashion Week, to the Paris Fashion Week, and the South by Southwest in Austin, Texas. The slush funds also provided over $114,000 to fund purchases of premium limited edition furniture line. So someone's palace got furnished. Another 91 used to finance a trade mission for Scandinavian style furniture line. Yeah, really good. Another 148,000 went to a pickle maker. A pickle maker. I'm sorry, I jar my own pickles. And if I spent $20 for making 6 quarts of pickles, that's a lot. 140,000 for a pickle maker. 225,000 to a producer of, catch this, organic tea and coffee. You're in the middle of a friggin' war zone. What do you care if it's organic or not? Right? What do you care? 104,000 to an artisanal fruit tea company. 89,000 to support a Ukrainian vineyard. It also provided 300,000 to a dog collar manufacturer. 300,000 for dog collars? All right. And a company selling pet tracking application. Okay. 161,000 for a purveyor of contemporary knitwear. In other words, a clothing store. 126,000 for a photographer for a fashion design publication. You're in a war zone. What do you care about fashion? You're ducking for cover. And here we go, 84,000 to support a luxury bridal brand. Can you believe this? And then Zelensky's wondering why we're upset, with wondering where the money went and having him account for it or pay it back.
Well, my understanding is that he can't account for $100 billion. It's missing. It's probably in a Swiss account.
Well, Joni Ernst has been delving into this and to the U.S. aid, which is not aid within the United States. It's meant to be international aid. $122 million in our tax dollars went to multiple organizations operating in the Middle East. And these organizations has documented links. She has documentation that this money went to Hamas, Hezbollah, and Al-Qaeda. And they wonder why we want. Oh, he's having problems signing into the browser. So he should be signing in shortly. So let's see if he's got the correct link. I'm just double checking it. Oh, come on. Well, let's see. I don't know why this is not. I don't know why this is coming up. So just bear with me. I'm sorry, folks. This is actually live. So we can't make this stuff up. So I apologize. This is what happens when we're doing it high tech.
Well, I had problems getting on the first time too, because the first window I get says, oops, error or something like that. But there's a little blue thing that I click on and move to the next screen.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Okay. Just want to make sure she got the correct link. So just waiting for him to get back on. But, and here we go. My camera is acting up on me again. There we go. And whenever I use the mouse, it turns and moves things around. So that's what's going on here, folks. Anyway, we're waiting for our next guest to come in, and I'm going through my notes here to see what else we have going on here. Oh, we were talking about DOGE and U.S. aid, and I think, there we go. Here we go.
Voila.
Yeah, technology at its best. Let's bring on to our program, for the first time, Don Wilkie. Good afternoon, Don. How are you today?
Good afternoon. Just fine. All thumbs when it comes to technology. I'm a little behind at times, I guess.
Hey, Don.
Hi, how are you?
All right.
Oh, man. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm of the age of where my grandparents still had a phone without a dial on it. You tap it to get the operator.
Uh-huh.
And to a previous co-host of mine, I said, and the old rotary phones. He goes, "What's a rotary phone?"
Yeah, we know those.
Oh, man. Until recently, I still had the old landline, but then the telephone company came through and said, "No, we're upgrading our system. We're not using the hard landlines now. We're going to give you a modem and this and that." And I hate it.
I heard that, I had a friend several years ago who got rid of his landline. And I said, "Why are you doing that?" But obviously he knew more than I did, because it makes sense.
Well, when you live in an area you get hit with hurricanes, you like to have a landline.
Yeah, true.
Either that or a satellite phone.
Yeah. Thank you, Elon Musk, right?
Yeah. Now I'm just going to go back through my papers here. All right, Don. You got a book out called Freedom Revealed, A Simple, Elegant System. Tell us about the book. And I got to apologize. My other guest got sick, so kind of they threw you into the mix here last minute.
That's fine. I'm glad to be on the show, actually. I want to get this word out to as many people as possible. I think it's going to change the world. One of the things we have missed in our history is what creates prosperity and why. That's all part of freedom. So to give you a brief history of how I got involved in this, I'm a businessman. I'm in my business. I'm saying, my God, I fight the government more than I fight my competitors. And that's not really how it's supposed to be. So I asked myself this simple question: what is freedom? And that led me on a 20-year journey to figure it out. My gurus were Benjamin Franklin, Richard Feynman, the physicist. And what I discovered is that freedom is not a philosophical system where, you sing songs and get goosebumps and that, but freedom is rather a mechanical system. It has elements, you need this, you need the other thing. And I started my search for freedom going to nature, where I think everything begins. We began in nature.
Mm-hmm.
And what I discovered in nature is, number one, there is no waste in nature. That's a saying that is a foundation of the environmental movement. So the question then became, if there is no waste in nature, what drives it out of nature? And the answer was competition. Competition and waste are connected, like opposite ends of a seesaw. Now, this is something nobody's put together before, even though it sounds so ridiculously simple. But if you picture a seesaw, put competition on one end, put waste on the other. As competition goes up, waste goes down. As competition goes down, waste goes up. What could be more simple? But those are two foundations of nature. And the third foundation I found, another very, very simple thing, was everything in nature moves to ease. And by that, I mean you go to the national park, you look at the signs, they say, do not feed the animals. Why do they say do not feed the animals? Because if you feed the animals, they'll stop feeding themselves. Well, people are animals, right? We're the same as everybody. We all came from nature. Now, that was interesting enough, finding those foundations of nature. But then I applied them to the two great systems that humankind has developed over centuries. And those two systems are the marketplace and government. And when you think of the marketplace and apply those foundations, you see that the marketplace operates almost identically to nature. It's a competitive system. We work every day to eliminate waste. It's just what we do. Our businesses eliminate waste, and everything in the marketplace moves to ease. Now, a very simple question again: why would you trade unless it made your life easier? Why would you buy anything unless it made your life easier? So I say this and get a laugh usually. Have you ever seen that guy on TV holding up his product saying, my product is really going to make your life difficult? No, you've never seen him. Every product is going to make your life easier. Okay, marketplace and nature operate the same. Now, when you look at government, how many governments are there? There's only one. And because there's only one government, there is no competition. So government is a non-competitive system. Everything still moves to ease. We're seeing that with the DOGE and the number of people working who are doing basically nothing. But the point is, it's a non-competitive system and you can't eliminate waste. And for most of human history, we have looked to government to create prosperity. America was a fundamental change in that, and we looked to the marketplace to create prosperity. That's the basics. That's the fundamentals of the book.
Well, you know, with the difference here, the United States was founded where government was limited to provide security. And that was the main purpose of it, not to produce, but to make our nation safe and secure and to preserve the laws. And it was the first time that it was from the person up and not from government down, where every person had skin in the game, which meant every person wanted to see government be limited. That all changed when we started giving handouts. And as I read your article, as you say that they will stop feeding themselves, that has been what we have now done to generations of our citizens. We have said, we'll take care of you. Look what it's done to England. They're in such an economic downturn that the universal healthcare system means that, now you've got a long wait to go see a doctor because you're depending upon government to take care of your health, not you being responsible for it.
This is what I try to emphasize, to go back to the roots. And when you go back to the root cause, the marketplace eliminates waste, and the marketplace delivers goods and services. It's meant to do that. The government is not meant to produce goods and services. And they're going to waste. They have to waste. There's no competition. It's very, very simple. So when you talk about government healthcare, of course it's going to waste, right? Mm-hmm. Of course it's going to get expensive. of course it's going to get bollocksed up and bureaucratized and become a mess.
Yeah.
Now, I'll give you one that is on the exact same lines as that, all going to the root cause again. Think of socialism. We have always thought of socialism as an economic system, but socialism is not an economic, it's a government system. So why, every time do we try socialism, do we get poverty? It's a non-competitive system. It's all too easy. But people like to get into the details, into the what I call weeds, and they go on, well, this little particular thing happened and that happened over there. And what I want everybody to do is think of the root cause. Why does it go to poverty? Well, government's running it. All they can do is waste, and waste creates prosperity. I mean, waste creates poverty.
Mhm.
Marketplace is competitive. It creates prosperity. It's too
See,
simple.
when we compete, we go back to our animal instinct. And
Sure.
here we are, we're looking to fill our bellies. But what happens with government is, as I said, is now for control. It's no longer to protect us and to enforce the laws. It is about control. And if they can control you, they control the power. And then they can get wealthier on our labor.
Well, look at what's happened. I mean, look at the money that is in Washington that we're finding with the DOGE operation.
Mm-hmm.
But it's an interesting thing with government. The government is there for a reason. Of course, it's a good reason. And one of the things government always says is, we want to keep you safe. I just heard Justin Trudeau in Canada say, we want to keep the people safe. That sounds good. Everybody wants to be safe. But what happens when they want to keep you safe? The absolute best safe place you can have is in a prison where you have padded cells, right? That's the safest place government can put you.
Well, you know, that's the whole thing. They use the word safe
Yeah.
to fool you into giving up your freedoms, your liberties.
Exactly.
And again, if you say we go back to our state of nature, well, isn't that a Judeo-Christian idea? Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. From ashes you come, from dust you go back to. And we are born free. It is only the constraints that government puts on us that limits that freedom. You know, it is in the Declaration of Independence.
Well,
And it's called the Declaration of Independence for a reason, because it's not just the independence of the nation, but it's of the individual too, of life, liberty, and the pursuit, not the guarantee, the pursuit of happiness.
yeah.
You tell you, Joe Biden, I know the words.
The thing. But again, that gets into the philosophical thing. I was an inventor once of a machine, and on the machine we had limit switches and we had timers. And we said in automation that timers were, I think enough time's gone by, let's go ahead. A limit switch is, I know I got hit, and now I know I can go ahead. So philosophy is, I think. Mechanics is, I know. And what we've never really done as a society is put the I know, this is a system, this is how the system works together. And that's what my mission is to get the system out, that this is the way the system works. Forget philosophy for a while. Look at the mechanics of it. We have a competitive system. Let's get our goods and services from that. We have a non-competitive system. We need it. We need government, but let's realize what the limitations are. And, you're going back to the safety thing. The whole point of COVID and all the ridiculous rules with the COVID pandemic were simply to keep you safe. And what happened? People started getting mad at each other. People started arguing with each other. You didn't get vaccinated. You're not keeping me safe. And this is not the way a free society is supposed to work.
No.
Well, Don, how much do you think, as far as the government, fear is used as a tool to get people to comply? Say like in COVID, you know, they scare. I had a friend that told me she didn't leave the house for a year because she was afraid of catching COVID.
Well, people still wear masks today. That they have no reason to be wearing a mask.
But fear is seen to be a tool
terrible. Yeah, and the whole point of a free system is to eliminate the fear. I mean, most of the history of mankind, we have lived in fear. I mentioned Benjamin Franklin. This is, if I may take a little side road here, but in Benjamin Franklin's day, people were terrified of lightning. Lightning was God's tool of vengeance. I mean, they were literally scared to death of lightning. And this is why Franklin became so well known throughout the world, because this common individual decided to look into electricity. He thought it was the same as lightning. He proved that it was. And then he harmlessly directed it into the earth where it didn't hurt anybody. And people couldn't believe it. This guy took God's tool of wrath and made it nothing. So yeah, fear is a big, big thing, and it's haunted us throughout society. I have a real simple one with fear. I don't know if you remember, but when I was growing up, we couldn't go swimming for an hour
after you eat.
After we'd eaten. Totally ridiculous. There's no reason for that whatsoever.
I remember that.
My mother had that fear, and she would not let me go until an hour had expired. So I couldn't swim. And the examples go on in every society. And opening up freedom, opening up the ability to think and talk and discuss, which of course is the power of free speech, that always opens up discussion and eliminates the fear. So it all is tied together. It's all a circle. I like to look at a system as a circle. Everything is as important as everything else in the system. So no beginning, no end. It's a big circle.
Well, as I said, you know, our nation was founded upon these very principles, and we have to bring ourselves back to it. And what I've seen with Trump doing and what he's doing with DOGE, it's just the start. It's just the very beginning. We've got a lot more to go, and because it's gone not in just our government, but into our social fabric. And now people expect certain things, or they expect that you think the way they think, and if you don't, you're shadow banned, you're ostracized, you're left out, you're threatened because you fail to think the way they feel you should think. And this has now become part of the government and part of our social fabric. We've got to take that out.
How many people have you heard say, let the government do it? You know, the government will protect us, let them do it, and they won't make a profit. And because they don't make a profit, they'll do it cheaper. Well, that is a ridiculous thing. Without competition, you're going to have waste, and waste is going to take up way more money and waste more money than a profit will ever. I like to think, and I wrote in my book that I think that profit is simply an indication of the amount of waste that is limited. For example, the iPhone that we all know so well now, when it came out, it was revolutionary. But think of the waste that it eliminated, the hard wiring to every single house. You know, we have on our phone now, we have magnifying glasses, we have direction finders, we have maps, we have everything. Think
flashlights.
Yeah, flashlights. Think of the amount of waste that an iPhone has eliminated. And the other thing with profits is, which is, again, very obvious, what happens in the marketplace if you don't make a profit? You go out of business. You don't
have a business.
Yeah.
You don't have a business.
The marketplace is self-cleaning. Oops, I got it. What did I do with you here?
I don't know. You still got me here, but you got just 1 minute left.
Okay, there I'm back.
All right. And people can find your book up on Amazon, correct?
Yes. Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, all the usual suspects.
Yeah.
And
it's
again,
called Freedom Revealed, a simple, elegant system. But Don, I want to thank you for joining us. It was great to have you pop in last minute as a substitute, but
Well,
we've had fun.
It was my pleasure. Sorry I was all thumbs with the technology, but I learned something today.
Well, I'll have you know, for the last 15 years, I have been running the Tea Party here. So
Great.
when you talk about freedom and liberty and waste and everything else, you're preaching to the choir.
Well, if you don't know the foundations, if you don't know how they work, everything else is wrong. You build a skyscraper, it can look beautiful, but if the foundations aren't right, it's nothing. The building's going to collapse.
It's coming
Yes,
down.
absolutely.
My whole
Absolutely.
thing is let's get the foundations right. Let's see what the marketplace is meant to do, the government is meant to do, and let's let them do it. And we will therefore get prosperity, which is what we want. We want a happy, prosperous life. We only go around once, we might as well be prosperous.
You're right. Don, thank you for joining us, and you have a great weekend.
Thank you, Ann. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. That was Don Wilkie. Check out his book up on Amazon. Let me get this banner out of here, because now we have our friend here from the director of this, executive director, let me get that correct, executive director of the CO2 Coalition, Gregory Wrightstone. And man, your mustache got bigger.
It did. Maybe my head got smaller. Maybe that's it.
Hey, Gregory.
Oh, man.
Well, it's been a while, Annie.
Yeah, it has been. Well, you stood me up a couple of times, to be honest.
Life intervened. Sorry.
Yes. And you've got 2 books out, Inconvenient Facts and A Very Convenient Warming. Boy, you must be glad to see Trump in the office right now.
Oh man, I tell you what, it's we've been fighting strong headwinds now for the last several decades, a couple of decades. When we talk about people like me that want to present the climate facts that dispute those climate fictions, and we've been saying, they've been silencing us. Again, we've had strong headwinds we were flying into, and man, we've got the wind at our back now. It's almost a gale force wind at our back, and it's something new every day. Just recently, 2 days ago, it looks like the endangerment, Lee Zeldin, and the endangerment finding. We kind of did through the back door. We did get a list of 55 highly qualified experts to Lee to help him, allow him to choose from these experts to refill the advisory panels that he fired everybody, which is what Biden did on the second or third day that he took office. The Science Advisory Board and the Clean Air Committee, KSAC, Biden fired all of them and went to court, Stan Young versus EPA, and it was ruled that the president has that ability and his people do, and that's what Lee Zeldin did. He fired everybody on those advisory panels, and they need to restock them. And so, as you know, the CO2 Coalition, we're the preeminent scientific organization in the world that's providing the information that disputes this climate crisis. And so we're able to do that. People are coming to us now because we try and stay out of the politics and stick to the science. And we've been saying for years now that it's the science that will win the day. And I still believe that.
Well, the thing is that we find under this woke agenda, or the green agenda, whatever you want to call it, if you didn't adhere to the science that they were touting, you were a heretic. You were going to be dismissed. Don't listen. They'll smear you as well as they can. And people like you and I, well, we say, you're giving us the wrong facts here. And they're saying, well, that's because you believe in God. But a good scientist also does believe in God. And I had this debate with someone once when I first started the show, and he was trying to say that, well, everything started with the colliding of 2 atoms. Well, where'd those 2 atoms come from? How'd they get there? Who put them there? I mean, how can you explain the existence of everything you see around without finding out what was the original cause? And no other explanation can be there except for God. So if we adhere to science and what we have been taught in the Judeo-Christian religion, we wouldn't have this mess.
Well, we stay out of politics and we stay out of religion. We've got so I know of at least two of the people that sit on our board that are strong atheists, and but they're also well recognized for their scientific thoughts and very distinguished in the work that they've done. We provide. You said they've got the facts wrong. Well, if it's wrong, it's not a fact. It's what they're doing is promoting a false narrative that needs to be pushed back against. And that'd be, in my first book that you loved, Inconvenient Facts, we showed pretty clearly that there's no climate crisis. And now we've gone beyond that in my new book, A Very Convenient Warming, how modest warming and more CO2 are benefiting humanity. We've moved beyond that there's no climate crisis to, oh my Lord, look at this. By almost every metric, we find that Earth's ecosystems are thriving and prospering, and humanity is benefiting from a little bit of warming and more CO2. And it's a great story. If it was Christmas season, I would be saying, I bring you glad tidings of great joy that the earth the earth is thriving and the human conditions improving. I call this the greatest untold story of the 21st century, that of a thriving planet and improvement of human conditions around the world.
Well, we're now seeing the states acting independently to move forward with promoting going back to the traditional ways of creating electricity, be it nuclear, coal, hydro. And my state in particular has been pushing because they started these 2 nuclear reactors, which we paid for on our electric bill. And then 1/3 of the way through, they stopped the construction. But we were still paying for them. And fortunately, they're going back to them with the birth of AI, the artificial intelligence that we see. They need massive amounts of electricity. Green new energy cannot produce it. Traditional production of energy does.
Yep. And we need 3 things that I say when we look for electricity generation. It should be reliable, abundant, and affordable. And you only get that from nuclear, natural gas, and coal. You don't get it from wind. You don't get it from solar. None of those are provided, and oil. But it's abundant, which means it's a dense form of energy, very dense. It doesn't require a large footprint. A footprint for wind and solar can be hundreds of times what the footprint of a solar. Don't call them farms, please. They're industrial scale facilities. When you think of a farm, it's bucolic, with something nice, cattle grazing and the wind blowing gently. But these solar facilities, to construct these, they're paving over thousands, many tens of thousands of square miles of prairie, grassland. They're cutting down forests to put up industrial scale wind facilities. They're cutting down mature forests in North Carolina and shipping those as wood pellets to the Drax facility in the United Kingdom, where they burn them. And that's called green energy. That's called renewable energy, because sooner or later those trees will grow back. And it's almost like they have to, in order to save the environment, they need to destroy the environment. And the UN has told us that what's the greatest danger to endangered species, to the ones at risk? It's habitat loss. What's their solution? Destroy the habitat. And it is. That's their solution. On one hand, they say, well, extinctions are increasing. And of course, they're not. They're decreasing. And they have been significantly since the early 1900s, completely opposite of what they're telling you. And so their solution to save the planet is to destroy the planet. And they're doing a pretty good job of it. They got a good start. But boy, it's really something now with the things that are going on, reining in the endangerment finding. That would be the endangerment finding for your viewers who may not know, is that in 2009, the Obama EPA ruled that carbon dioxide, or CO2, is a pollutant. And because it's a pollutant, it can be regulated. And all the other regulations, now don't give me the side eye when I tell you I'm pro-choice and proud of it. I'm pro-choice because I want you to have the choice as to what kind of car to drive, how to heat your home, how much water comes out of your shower, what dishwasher you should have. You should have the ability to choose and not have the government dictate. So when I say I'm pro-choice, I want to give you the opportunities and the freedom to choose those things for yourself. I know you looked at me and went like this, but
light bulbs included.
Yeah, but they've systematically been restricting you and your viewers' freedoms, and it's all in the name of solving a non-existent problem. I say no, thank you. We're spending possibly trillions of dollars of tax money around the world, again, to solve a non-existent problem. And because there is no climate crisis, because CO2 is not leading to catastrophic warming, we shouldn't spend not trillions of dollars, not billions of dollars. I say don't spend one red cent. And what they're doing, their solution is to strip CO2 out of the atmosphere using carbon capture, and it's an expensive operation. Think of the people that have been proposing this: Kristi Noem, Doug Burgum at Interior, the Wyoming governor, Mark Gordon. They're in the Western Governors Association. They want to decarbonize the West. We have so many people in the Republican Party pushing for this carbon capture. It's direct air capture, DAC, is extremely expensive. Each coal fire, they're saying we want to save the coal fire facilities. Well, no, you don't. To retrofit an existing coal fired facility with this direct air capture and capturing, it's almost $1 billion per facility. And on top of that, it's energy intensive, the carbon capture. It takes anywhere from 24 to 30% of the electricity generated from that coal-fired plant to run the carbon capture operations. So you're going to have to produce all that much more electricity in order to capture the CO2. And then what do you do with it? You have to ship it in pipelines somewhere and store it underground.
I'm always trying to figure out how the heck you store it underground.
It's actually pretty easy. I'm a geologist. We've been storing gases underground for 150 years. A long time.
Speaking of gases, where do cow farts fit into all this?
Well, we've got a paper. You're talking about methane, and we have a paper that was written by Richard Lindzen, Dr. Richard Lindzen of MIT. And if you go to the CO2 Coalition website, co2coalition.org, and just the search bar, we've got a great search feature there. Just type in methane, and you'll come up with several papers that we've published. The detail, just is it a greenhouse gas? Yes. Does it have a warming effect? Yes. But it's incredibly small and completely overrun by the natural forces that have been driving temperatures up and down since the dawn of time.
I just always was trying to figure out, regulating the flatulence of ovine and bovine. But then again, I just, with my late husband, whenever he passed one, I would say, "Oh, methane gas does flow from thy," and the rest.
Yeah. No, there's nothing. And in fact, we were just approached several months ago by a leader, one of the top anesthesiologists in the country. He was a leader of one of the groups, and he says, "My membership's pushing really hard for us to either ban outright or greatly restrict the amount of anesthesia being used because they're greenhouse gases and they're warming the planet." And it's the first I'd heard of it, and there was nothing out there published. So I tasked our team to take a look at it, and we have published on that. The biggest one's nitrous oxide, laughing gas. But the others that are used quite a bit are things like desflurane, hexflurane, these other blah 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 fluorines, and they are greenhouse gases. And each molecule has more warming potential than carbon dioxide, but the concentrations of these are so small that they're measured in billions of parts per million, not millions. Parts per million, parts per billion. And the warming potential, we calculated using IPCC formulas that the warming potential of these other non-nitrous oxide anesthesias, it was 0.00, I think there were 5 or 6 zeros and then a significant digit of warming potential in one by the year 2100. It was like you can't. It was so incredibly small. There was nothing out there, so we published it, and he said this was just been a huge help to us because now I have something to take back to my members and say you guys are crazy, and look here, and that's the value that we have as scientists that people are coming to us asking. We had other people coming to us for other options, other things that they're looking at. And we've got a member of ours that he was in the CO2 business. He sold CO2 to the beverage industry and to the food industry. Of course, the biggest use in the food industry is dry ice. Dry ice, you may not know, is actually frozen CO2. And he knew a lot about it. And he also sold CO2 to the oil companies for CO2 is a great use for underground oil. They pump it into the oil reservoir, and it pushes. It's miscible with oil. In other words, it can become part of that oil, but it energizes it and it pushes it from the injection well over to a production well. That might be, you inject it here, and the oil comes out over there, and so it's a great use for it. And they've been doing that for many decades. And now that what they want to do, but it's not. The CO2 that you pump down in the injection well ends up coming out the other place over there. Most of it ends up coming into the atmosphere anyhow. So, but with CO2 to inject it underground, you have to put it into porous rocks under there. And we've been injecting natural gas. There are thousands of natural gas storage fields across the world and across the United States.
Well,
Gregory.
I was going to ask a question on this one because we're talking about oil. With the push for Trump to do more drilling, whether it's offshore or fracking or whatever, I didn't hear anyone say anything about rebuilding the refineries. What is the purpose of us producing the oils and gases, the petrochemicals, if we can't refine them here? And the last refinery was built in the 1970s. I would think that we'd be pushing for the refineries. Otherwise, we have to ship our oil out to places like China and India to have them refine it for them to sell it back to us.
Yeah. And you're right about that. I think California's shutting down their last remaining refinery in the state of California because of climate change. And it's ridiculous. That's a good point. But bear in mind, too, there were two things that Donald Trump promised us, and they don't work together. If you watch, he promised we're going to drop the price of energy by 50%, and we're going to drill, baby, drill. The only way energy prices drop is if oil prices drop significantly. And since we're a free market economy, oil companies like to make money. If the oil price gets too low, they'll stop drilling. They have in the past. It's driven by profit, as it should. So his promise, if indeed oil prices went to $40 a barrel, it would shut down most of the shale oil production, new wells being drilled almost overnight because they can move pretty quickly. The big projects, like in the Gulf of Mexico, or excuse me, I almost said Gulf of Mexico, the Gulf of America. I got to get that right. In the Gulf of America, some 25% of our oil production comes out of that. Those are big, expensive projects, as are the projects in Alaska. And those are the big boys that do those. Those are $1 billion+ projects, and they take a lot of forward planning, many years of development. And so these guys are now, these companies, they're looking closely what happens in 4 years when there's a President Newsom or a President AOC or a president, whoever it's going to be. You're right, exactly. I don't think it'll be either one of those. But of course, who knows who it might be? But it might not be Trump, and it might be somebody that backs going right back to what Biden did. So what they need to do is get these things legislatively in place. I kind of wish he would have, with the Paris Climate Accord, I wish he had submitted it to the Senate so we could kill it for once and for all, put a stake through its heart. Because the Senate, if you treat it as a treaty, and the Senate would vote it down, it would not pass, and then it would be dead. But as it is, in 4 years, a new president could get us right back in the Paris Climate Accord.
Yeah. And he may do that. My next question is, you mentioned earlier about staying away from the politics of things. But how do you get your truth, your message, your science into the school systems where kids are being propagandized and brainwashed into this, Mother Earth, Mother Nature, and everything else is evil?
Well, that's a challenge, and our members 3 years ago raised that same question. They were very concerned that their children and grandchildren were being indoctrinated into this climate cult. And we decided to do something about it, formed an educational committee, an arm of the CO2 Coalition. If you go to co2learningcenter.com, co2learningcenter.com, we have a series of educational science books, educational videos. These all deal with one thing or another about climate. One of the books is on recycling, and in that recycling book, the children read it and they learn that Mother Nature is the greatest recycler of all. Everything goes back into nature and eventually to CO2. They break down, organisms break it down, it rots up, and it ends up as CO2 in the atmosphere, a lot of this. And so we do that. And importantly, we have Dr. Sharon Camp as our senior education advisor. She's got a PhD in analytic chemistry, and she was also an AP science teacher, still is an AP reader. And so she creates wonderful lesson plans that go along with each of the books and each of the videos, co2learningcenter.com. I've got a full-time artist in Brazil, Tiago Hellinger, who does the artwork. These are just wonderful, gifted artists. And the books are illustrated. The kids just love it. Our most recent book I wrote was called Chloe the Clownfish Sleeps Well. And it's about a clownfish named Chloe that lives on the Great Barrier Reef. And she can't sleep at night because she's scared. She's heard that her reef home is going to be destroyed. Their family will be gone. And so we are able to use that story to tell the truth about what's actually happening on the Great Barrier Reef. And I collaborated with Dr. Peter Ridd, who's one of the top Great Barrier Reef experts, to make sure we had the science right. And it's a wonderfully illustrated, wonderful book. It's really, I'm really proud of what we were able to do. So we're going after the children. And so we're targeting, for the most part, charter schools, but mainly the homeschool parents. I've got 4 grandchildren. They're all homeschooled. And the homeschool community, we're going to be going to 6 conventions starting next month. 4 of those will be homeschooling conventions. We'll be going to Florida, Virginia, Texas, California. We'll be presenting that. And we provide these materials at no charge. It's free. We're not making money. It's our mission to provide information and data to homeschooling parents at no charge. We want to help them. And so we're doing this as part of our mission. It's been great. It's been really, I get a lot out of it because people are just so grateful to get this information. We went to the National Science Teaching Association's annual convention a year ago, and we had a double booth. I had a publication we had just written. It was called Challenging the NSTA's Climate Change Policies. And in it was pretty detailed. We went through and identified what the National Science Teaching Association gets wrong in their climate change policy. They didn't like that. And they came down and they said, you need to remove this material. And I told them to go pound salt. I said, there's no way. I'm not going to do that. He says, you have to. And I said, well, I'm not going to. And this is the science. He says, well, then you have to leave. And so they kicked us out. People in the convention community couldn't believe it. They've been I talked to a friend of mine that was in the convention business. He says, I've never heard of that before. How did you paid for your booths and they kicked you out? And we went out with our heads held high. We'd already distributed just about all of our materials because people were flocking to our material to get our materials. It got around pretty quickly. We had some really good science material. It was free. And so we really, what we found was the NSTA and the teaching establishment in the United States, around the world too, they're teaching groupthink and indoctrination into the climate cult. They're not teaching the scientific method or critical thinking skills. And that's what we bring to the homeschoolers. We use critical thinking skills and the scientific method, and to teach these children how to use that. And that's been the scientific method has been removed. Only 2 states in the United States, North Carolina and Florida, include the scientific method as part of their science curricula. It's been systematically removed, and it's well, we're working. We've put a task force together, targeting the states as they're coming up for their renewing their curriculum revisions. Our member. Yep. And it's just, they rely on their big thing is, they rely on consensus, the consensus science. And the great author, Michael Crichton, he said, if it's science, it's not consensus. If it's consensus, it's not science. The great physicist, Michael Feynman, one of the great physicists of our time, my favorite quote on consensus, he says, I would rather have questions that can't be answered than answers that can't be questioned. Now, that's what we have right now in the climate debate. They're telling us the answer, and you dare not question this. This is what it is. Any questions you have, any information that flies in the face of man-made climate crisis from global warming is greenhouse warming. You just sit down and shut up.
Well, Gregory, I can't believe I'm just looked at the clock. We're down to our last minute.
Isn't it fun?
Yeah, well, it's always fun whenever we get together, you and I. And so the audience knows I was your first.
You were. You always remember your first.
And the first person to interview you.
That's right, exactly.
And 2 weeks later, you were on Fox News.
Yep. But I've done a lot of interviews with a lot of people, but none of them measure up to Annie Ubellis. So thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Well, God bless, and hopefully we'll run into each other soon.
Righto.
All right, take care.
Take care.
Gregory Wrightstone, check him out at co2coalition.org. I've known him for over 10 years. Always a pleasure to have him on, even though he stands me up every now and then. But we will be back next week. I do believe Dr. Robert Malone will be with us next week. I have to confirm that. And I'm hoping that Mark Tapscott will be with us. He had a medical issue, and I'm just say prayers out there for Mark. So that's all we have for today, folks. I want to thank everyone for joining us, and know that we are also now up on Substack Live. So check it out at Southern Sense. The name of the show is Southern Sense. Check us out on Substack. Till then, I say good night and God bless.
I'm praying for this land I love, America, America, the home of the free. But there are people making plans to change America. They've no respect for her or what matters most to me. That's why I stand for the flag and I kneel at the cross. Mourn for the friends I have loved and lost. And I still believe in God we trust, and the freedom our forefathers granted us. I hope it's not too late to save America. Do you hear our battle cry across America? We've got to to rescue her. You know it's up to me and you to see the truth behind their lies. Don't change America. God bless America and the red, white, and blue. That's why I stand for the flag and I kneel at the cross. Long for the friends I have loved and lost. And I still believe in God we trust, and the freedom our forefathers granted us. I hope it's not too late to save America. For the friends we have loved and lost, and we still believe in God we trust, in the freedom our forefathers granted us. We know it's not too late to save America. Save America. Let's save America. Together we can save